Now we have a talk on WebDriver BiDi, Revolutionizing Cross-Browser Automation by Harsha. WebDriver BiDi is an advanced cross-browser automation protocol that seamlessly combines the best of both worlds, that is WebDriver Classic and DevTools Protocol. In this talk, the speaker will dive into the characteristics compared to the traditional WebDriver approach. Additionally, the speaker will provide practical demonstrations through code samples using WebDriver IO and Selenium. About speaker, Harsha is an esteemed member of Selenium and WebDriver IO communities, contributing as a committer and serving on the technical leadership committee for Selenium. Currently, Harsha holds the position of test automation engineer at EPAM Systems. Let's welcome Harsha to give our session on WebDriver BiDi.
Thank you, Rachana. Thank you for the introduction. Firstly, congratulate for all the quiz winners. Okay. Yep. So today my topic will be on the WebDriver BiDi. So a new browser automation protocol, and it is a bidirectional automation protocol for the browser standards. Okay, so what we'll do in this talk is, firstly, I will introduce you to the WebDriver BiDi, and we will also explore the reasons why WebDriver BiDi was created or came into the picture. And we also see the limitations of the WebDriver Classic, the existing WebDriver, and also with other browser automation protocols like CDP and also like Web API. And later we'll also see how we can use WebDriver BiDi in the latest versions of Selenium and WebDriver IO. So coming to me, for the people who don't know me, my name is Harsha, currently working as test automation engineer at EPAM Systems. So apart from that, I'll be also exploring the open source projects and also committing to the open source projects, currently serving as TLC member for Selenium HQ and the member of WebDriver IO. So for the people who can connect me, you can connect me on the Slack, Twitter, GitHub, or LinkedIn. So coming to the agenda, what we'll do is, firstly, we will actually explore the evolution of WebDriver Classic. And because you need to understand the evolution of WebDriver Classic and its limitations so that you can easily understand the WebDriver BiDi concept. And the second thing is, we will differentiate how WebDriver Classic and CDP is different and with their implementation, because understanding these two tools limitations helps you to clearly understand why WebDriver BiDi is created. Later, we'll go with the advantages of the WebDriver BiDi. It is still in development progress, the WebDriver BiDi, but we have already implemented in the Selenium and WebDriver IO. So we'll see the advantages, what it does, and current state of WebDriver BiDi. So as I said, it is still in the development progress. So how far it is developed and how far it is completed in the Selenium, we'll see it. And I will also show you the implementation with Selenium and WebDriver IO. So from the past 6 months, we have been working a lot to implement WebDriver BiDi in the Selenium and WebDriver IO. And we have a few code samples working with the Selenium and WebDriver IO. I'll show you. So coming to the history of WebDriver Classic. So as you have all answered for the second question. So Selenium was invented in the year of 2004. So I call it as a birth of test automation tool by Jason Huggins in Thoughtworks, right? So it was a good tool because Selenium RC used to inject a JavaScript code called Selenium code in the browser, and it is used to execute the commands in the browser, right? But due to its complex architecture, there are few limitations with the Selenium RC. And later what happened, Simon Stewart introduced WebDriver. So a simple browser API, to automate web browsers. And WebDriver was a cross-browser automation API too, right? And in the year of 2009, what happened? Selenium and WebDriver, both projects got merged, and it was now Selenium WebDriver was a single house automation project, tool for to automate every browser. So Selenium WebDriver was widely popular, and for many years, it has been 18 years, turned close to 19 years. And in the year of 2018, they made Selenium WebDriver as a standard W3C WebDriver. And now Selenium communicates via W3C protocol. If you all know, previously WebDriver used to communicate with the JSON Web protocol. There are a few limitations, and as it is made now a standard, it now communicates with the W3C protocol, and with the W3C protocol, Selenium was more fast, and there were no flakiness, and there were more consistent test cases. So you all know WebDriver. Now WebDriver, we call this the WebDriver Classic. There are few tools in the market that uses WebDriver Classic as a pure implementation in the backend. First one is, you all know, Selenium. Selenium is the main core automation framework which only uses WebDriver in the backend, right? It does not integrate with any third-party services kind of thing, but it's a pure implementation of the WebDriver API. And the second tool is WebDriver IO. So coming to the WebDriver IO, it is also one automation tool developed in the JavaScript/TypeScript. So for many people, it has been a misconception like WebDriver IO is built on top of Selenium, but it's not the true. WebDriver IO is an implementation, different implementation of WebDriver protocol, but it is in the JavaScript. And the third tool is the EPAM, so popular mobile testing automation framework. So it also uses WebDriver Classic only in the backend. And the fourth tool is Nightwatch.js. So Nightwatch.js is built on top of Selenium. So it uses Selenium, JavaScript, WebDriver API in the backend for the automation. So these are the four popular tools in the market that uses directly WebDriver API. So there are other tools, if you say like, Serenity.js or Catalan Studio, there are other tools, but they are built on top of like, Selenium, or they are using some other tool to simulate the WebDriver API. So Selenium WebDriver was not only the automation tool in the market, like it is not only the single protocol in the market for the browser automation. So as web standard has evolved from many years, so there were there was a demand to write test cases in JavaScript. So there were two new protocols came into the picture due to this demand. First one is the Web API automation tools. So Web API automation tool is Cypress. So that uses Node.js in the backend. So how Cypress works is simple. It uses Web API to simulate your actions instead of WebDriver. For example, assume there is a button now, here a click me button. So we will see how Cypress actually simulates the click condition and how WebDriver Classic simulates the click condition. So firstly, if you ask me how WebDriver actually clicks the button. So first, when we perform a click action, WebDriver actually scrolls onto that element if it is not in the viewport. And second, it moves the pointer onto the button correctly. And within the viewport, it actually clicks the button. So this is how WebDriver is actually used to click the button when you perform the action. But coming to the Cypress has a different implementation to click the button, like using the Web API. So it is simple. If you have the locator, you can go to the DevTools console and you can just select execute the jQuery document.getElementById and simulate the click condition. So this is how actually Cypress clicks the button in the backend. And this is WebDriver actually clicks the button as the end user does, but Cypress does in a different way. This actually executes the code in the browser. So apart from the Web API tools, there is one more protocol, the popular one called the CDP. We call it as a Chrome DevTools Protocol. So the tools which are using the CDP protocol are many, but I just want to highlight only Puppeteer for now. So Puppeteer is the core and pure implementation of the CDP because it is only designed for the Chromium-based browsers, I can say. So like Chromium, Chrome, and the Edge Chromium. So again, if you take the click me button, how WebDriver Classic executes and how CDP executes, WebDriver Classic actually moves the pointer onto the button and performs the click action. But coming to the CDP, again, CDP has a different implementation to perform a click action. First one, so it actually selects the button using a query selector. And second, it injects a session search ID because for every element there will be a unique ID. Again, after performing that search operation, it simulates the event mouse pressed, and later it simulates the event mouse released. So this is how the CDP actually clicks a button in the backend when you perform any click action. So there is a lot of difference if you see WebDriver and Web API and CDP. These automation tools working implementation is a bit different in the backend, but these are the most popular automation tools in the market. Right. So now in a high level, what we'll do is we'll now compare the WebDriver Classic and CDP. I'm not going to talk about the Web API now, but WebDriver BiDi mostly depends upon the Classic WebDriver and the CDP in here. So first thing is WebDriver Classic is a standard tool accepted by the W3C, and it is a cross-browser automation API. So it is supported by every browser vendor now. Every browser vendor developed their browser drivers in order to support the WebDriver Classic. Coming to the CDP, the name itself says it is only designed for the Chromium-based browsers. So it only supports if the tool has the Chromium DevTools in the backend, working in the backend. Like only Chromium and Edge Chromium will work with the CDP. There is a support with the Firefox, but it is not full-fledged. It is a bit limited support. But for Chromium-based browsers, it is it supports completely. The second reference is Selenium WebDriver communicates via HTTP request. So you all know Selenium actually starts a HTTP server in the backend to send the commands or the request, right? But there are a lot of limitations with the HTTP request. I will come in the next slide, but it only communicates via HTTP request. And second thing is CDP communicates via WebSocket. So there is a lot of advantages when communicating with a WebSocket because it is a bidirectional actually. So you can actually listen what is happening at the browser side. The third difference is Selenium or the WebDriver Classic, I can say it does not support low-level controls. So in short, low-level controls defined as the DevTools access to you. You all know Selenium is only used to automate web API, web UI, and functionalities, but it does not have access to the DevTools in here. And the main feature of CDP is it actually supports low-level controls using CDP, you can read console logs, JS errors, or you can intercept network requests in here. So these are the three differences. Now we'll go with the limitations. So understanding limitations actually help you to understand why WebDriver BiDi came into the picture. So first thing is the limitation with the WebDriver Classic is the synchronous nature. So Selenium requests are synchronous. So a unidirectional, I can say. For example, if you send a sequence of commands, sequence of requests from the Selenium, what happens is it processes the request one by one, and it waits for previous request to complete. So there is a performance issue, or you can see that there will be a bit slowness in the test time. Second thing is WebDriver Classic, does not allow low-level controls, DevTool controls. So as I said, again, Selenium WebDriver does not have access to the DevTools, so you cannot perform network interception, reading console logs, or kind of things, kind of actions. So third thing is WebDriver is unidirectional. So this is the main point. This is the main limitation with the communicating via HTTP protocol, because HTTP cannot send events to back to the client again. So because of the unidirectional, what happens is, for example, if you have an element and if you want to click that element, first what you do is you will select the element and you will see the element is enabled or disabled, or if the element is still loading, taking time for loading. What happens in this case, you always keep polling for that element to perform the right action. So in this polling, what happens is you have to send too many requests to the browser, WebDriver, in order to wait until that you get the correct response and to perform a click action, right? So it is a unidirectional. So that's why there is a performance issue with the HTTP request. So these are all the WebDriver Classic limitations. Only I won't highlight three. And there are a couple of CDP limitations too. CDP was a great tool, it was most popular now, but there are a couple of limitations with the CDP implementation. First thing is browser compatibility. So with every release of Chrome browser or the Chrome version, there will be a new CDP version released in the backend. So the CDP API or the CDP methods are not consistent. There were few deprecated methods from when you compare with the previous release and the current release. So it is not stable, and it only supports for the Chromium-based protocols. You can say CDP stands for Chrome DevTools Protocol, and it only supports for the Chromium-based protocols. And there was no full-fledged support for Firefox or Safari. So it is not a cross-browser automation API. And the second thing is CDP's version dependency. To relate to the first point, I can say it is strictly version dependent. For every new release of CDP, you have to actually change the versions of the CDP too. For example, if there is a new Chrome version 114 released, you have to pin the CDP version 114 in your scripts. So again, there's a dependency the methods introduced in 114 may be deprecated in 115, or it may not be compatible with the 110 or 108. So this was the limitations with the CDP. It was not consistent. They were changing as the DevTools was changing in the backend. So now you have seen the limitations of the WebDriver Classic and the CDP. Now WebDriver Classic, the core limitation is it cannot access the DevTools using the WebDriver API. And the CDP limitation is it is only the browser specific and it is not consistent. Due to these limitations, the team WebDriver, WTC team has coined a new protocol called WebDriver BiDi. So WebDriver BiDi is a new protocol which combines the power of WebDriver and also the power of CDP, I can say. Now using the WebDriver BiDi, what you can do, you can also automate your test cases along with having the access to the DevTools, browser DevTools, right? So with the introduction of new protocol, there are few advantages currently with the WebDriver BiDi, as it is not full-fledged implemented, but there are few advantages with Selenium and WebDriver IO. And WebDriver BiDi is not completely a new protocol. I can say it is built on top of existing WebDriver only. So it gives existing WebDriver to power of accessing the dev tools easily. So coming to the advantages of WebDriver BiDi. So first one is WebDriver BiDi is fast and bidirectional. So this is a limitation with the Selenium WebDriver Classic, as there was a HTTP request it was sending. So in order to make it fast and bidirectional, WebDriver BiDi opens a WebSocket connection in the backend and transfers, communicates to your browser, handles your request. And the second thing is provides low-level control. So the main or the primary goal of WebDriver BiDi implementation is to have the WebDriver Classic to have access to the dev tools in here. So it provides all the low-level controls, network interceptions, or access to console logs, JS errors, and everything. You can also do performance profiling using the WebDriver BiDi. So third thing is it is a cross-browser support. So it is the limitations with the CDP. So as CDP was only defined for Chromium-based browsers. So WebDriver BiDi is a W3C specification. It is not a standalone implementation from one organization kind of. So WebDriver BiDi is a W3C implementation. So now every browser vendor is implementing the WebDriver BiDi. So we'll also see the BiDi implementations from the each browser vendor. And now, because when I say cross-browser support, when you're writing script for one browser, it is used to it performs the same action in another browser too. So there will be more consistent in test cases. So we have been talking about the low-level controls that WebDriver BiDi supports. So WebDriver BiDi has many features over low-level controls, but I just want to highlight 4 of them in here. First one is listening to the JS errors. So every application at some point at the development phase will have some JS errors that every developer wants them for the debugging purpose. So WebDriver BiDi actually allows the user to capture the JS errors, and they can use it for the debugging. And the second thing is listen to the console logs. As similar to the JS errors, WebDriver BiDi actually provides you to listen to the console logs. And there are 5 types of console logs, console logs, debug, error, warn kind of things. So you can access them using WebDriver BiDi. And third thing is the DOM mutation. DOM mutation is a concept where you can actually see what is changing in the DOM tree in the backend. So when an event is triggered, so what elements are appearing or what elements are disappearing, you can actually keep an eye or you can monitor using the DOM mutation. So you can do that with the WebDriver BiDi. And fourth one is the network interception. Network interception is a concept which allows developers to access, modify, and change the network requests and responses. So with this, you can actually mock the networks, incoming networks and the outgoing networks. So these are the 4 main features I just want to introduce for the WebDriver BiDi for you. But apart from this, WebDriver BiDi has a lot more advantages and a lot more features coming in the future. So current implementation status. So this is not from this from the tool perspective. This is from the browser perspective. So these are called the web platform test cases. So web platform test cases are the cross-browser automation suite or the cross-browser test cases that every browser vendor uses to test their implementation. Right? As we write our test cases for the application, browser vendors also write their test cases for their implementation. So these are the test cases for the WebDriver BiDi. So the left side, you can see the modules like browsing context, errors, input, log, network, and session. So these are all the modules, the BiDi modules. And the right side is the number of test cases that every browser vendor has written. So the green shows that that feature is already available in the browser vendor, like in the browser driver. And the red shows that it is still not yet implemented. So by clearly, you can see the Safari team has not yet implemented the WebDriver BiDi, but WebDriver BiDi is successfully implemented in the Chromium and Edge and Firefox browsers. So it is already available in these 3 drivers. So coming to the demo part, I'll just show you how you can enable the WebDriver BiDi in the Selenium and WebDriver BiDi in the WebDriver IO. So it is simple. In order to enable WebDriver BiDi, the browser vendors has provided a new option called WebSocket URL. So by enabling the WebSocket URL to true, what happens? You will be starting a WebSocket connection in the backend. So when you start your Selenium test, what happens? Selenium test actually starts the Selenium server, and in the backend it starts a WebSocket connection, which listens to the BiDi events. Okay, so when you set WebSocket URL to true, what happens? WebSocket connection will be up. And second thing is you need to actually subscribe for a session or subscribe for an event. For example, here I have console logs in my application, and I just want to read all the console logs from my application during testing. So here I have the new method called log inspector in Selenium. So I'm just registering to listen to the log events in here. And second thing is I'm going to a URL. This is the URL that we use to test our Selenium implementation, where you will have a lot of options. You will have a lot of buttons. I'll show you. If you click that, then console log messages will be logged into the DevTools console. So once there is a console log event triggered in the automation browser, then with this code, I'm actually fetching that log and using for my debugging purpose. So I'll show you how it works in the live demo. But in the second part, we'll go with how WebDriver IO implements the WebDriver BiDi. So in the market, currently, there are only two tools that implements WebDriver BiDi, Selenium and WebDriver IO. So this is the implementation with the WebDriver IO. So for the people who are familiar with the WebDriver IO can easily understand this code. In here, I'll start a new session with the capabilities, where in my capabilities, I'll set WebSocket URL to true in order to start the BiDi connection. And WebDriver IO provides a few browser methods, browser protocol methods called session.subscribe in order to subscribe to the BiDi events. Okay, so here I say log.entry added. So log.entry added is from the WebDriver BiDi protocol, so that allows you to listen to log events. And here what I'm doing is I'm executing a script, executing a JavaScript, where I just print a console error called JS error in here. And once that is triggered, automatically, when I listen to the message event, I can fetch that log message in the browser, and I can use it for the debugging. So here you can see I haven't hit any URL in here. So you can use WebDriver BiDi directly in order to there is no need to actually hit a URL and test it. If you have any JavaScript errors that are already logging in your application, you can use WebDriver BiDi to fetch that messages. So now we'll go with the implementation with the Selenium first. I'll share my screen again. Yeah. No, you just need to understand how WebDriver BiDi method works. So we have written the API documentation. It is in progress, so that once you understand how we can use this, to listen to log events or to intercept the network requests, you can use them directly. And everything, only thing is, if you want to start WebDriver BiDi, you just need to set WebDriver socket URL to true. That starts the WebDriver BiDi connection automatically.
So if I wanted to switch from the existing framework that we are using is WebDriver. So if I wanted to switch to the WebDriver BiDi, so only thing I need to change is WebSocket to and the capability insertion. That's it.
That's it.
And there is no changes in the syntax for the commands and all.
Yes, absolutely. So WebDriver BiDi is already built on WebDriver Classic. So if you make sure, if you set false to the WebSocket URL, your test will be using WebDriver Classic as it is. If you make it true, then there will be a BiDi connection in the backend that will be start. That will be that will transfer your messages.
Yeah, and Playwright also uses CDP, right?
Playwright uses CDP, yes.
So what are the, because Playwright supports all the multi-browsers as well. So do you see any advantage of using BiDi compared to the Playwright?
Absolutely. So there is only one thing that BiDi is more advantage than CDP. BiDi is a standard actually. CDP is not a browser specific standard. So not a W3C standard. It is only specific to Chromium based browsers. So that is the limitation that other browsers cannot implement. So only BiDi is same as CDP, but it is a browser standard, W3C standard, I can say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Selenium RC and Selenium Hub, mostly they work together, or we can have the integration, right? Similarly, Selenium Hub also can be integrated with BiDi here.
I didn't get that question. Can you come again?
Selenium RC and Selenium Hub.
Okay.
Like for the remote execution,
yes,
and have
yes,
the remote
yes.
machines separate, right? So similarly, Selenium Hub also can be integrated with this.
No, that's long gone for now.
No, right.
Selenium RC is a different implementation, I can say. Currently, how CDP is executing, Selenium RC also used to inject commands into the browser. But when the WebDriver came into the picture, the standard, they have both merged. And now WebDriver BiDi uses the same thing, but it is now a standard, that's it. But we are not using Selenium Hub and kind of thing. WebDriver BiDi is implemented from the browser vendor side. So it is available in the Chromium browsers and the Gecko driver, and we are not doing any changes. We are only adding support in order to use WebDriver BiDi.
Hey, Shri. One of the advantages we mentioned, the Selenium BiDi will improve the synchronization, right?
Yes.
Now Selenium WebDriver is in synchronous nature, right? And WebDriver IO, which already started accepting asynchronous, now it is moved to asynchronous. So what additional benefit will the Selenium BiDi will add on the WebDriver IO?
So when talking about the WebDriver IO asynchronous, it is the property or it is the behavior from the Node.js, I can say, because Node.js is asynchronous, it is WebDriver IO is asynchronous now. So that is a different part of communication to the browser drivers. So here browser drivers are communicating bi-directional, not the tools in here. So previously with the W3C protocol or the JSON Web protocol, browser drivers are communicating synchronously. So it's not with the tool implementation, it's the with the browser driver implementation. So from the browser driver perspective, it is bi-directional.
I got one more.
Yeah.
You mentioned Selenium BiDi will help to automate the low-level developer tools, right? Will that WebDriver IO going to help to manipulate the application storage kind of things?
Yes, so currently the implementation is not yet completed in the WebDriver BiDi, but it is the main reason WebDriver BiDi was introduced. It will give complete access to the dev tools. You can do performance profiling, or you can see how much memory it is using. You can completely test your performance, performance of the application with the BiDi.
Thanks.
So we have one question from Gurgaon. Can we take that?
We have a question from Gurgaon.
Okay.
Sri Harsha, Gurgaon can take.
So Harsh, I just wanted to know, after adding this capability WebSocket true, can I extract the HAR file also? Like right now we need to mock this, we use certain type of proxies to extract the HAR file. So is there something where we can, can it be helpful in that scenario?
So regarding the network interception, is this about?
HAR file, like HTTP archive response file.
Currently, I don't have the example for it right away, but if you come and ping me in the Selenium Slack, I can give it as an example with a code example later. But if you see the implementation status for now, there are only a couple of methods we have implemented in the Selenium to listen to log inspectors and the JS errors, and to inject the script pinning. So I believe the network requests are not yet implemented in Selenium yet.
This bidirectional can help us out in flakiness, or with respect to the page load time issues or latency issues. Or
yes, that can because WebDriver BiDi is a bidirectional protocol, it can give actually what is happening at the browser side, and you can take action accordingly. Yes.
Chennai has question. Go ahead, Chennai. Subha.
Yeah. Hi, Sri Harsha. I have a question here, with respect to BiDi. So currently, in my I am working on WebDriver IO, and mainly due to the issues of flakiness of the test and non-availability of elements. So you need to manually scroll into that element to view, and all these timeouts and all these issues. That is one of the main reasons I'm actually considering moving to Playwright. So how do you think this adding this WebDriver BiDi would support this issue, or what is your take on because Playwright currently they have said they are not supporting BiDi for now because it is not a standard across all the browsers. So
yeah, I'll take this issue into two ways. So firstly, I have shown how different tool works in order to perform an action, for example, to identify elements or to perform the click action, right? So flakiness will be because of multiple reasons, I can say. But from WebDriver perspective, I can say whenever you're trying to perform any action on an element, actually it automatically scrolls into that element and perform actions. So if it is not visible on the screen, Selenium WebDriver can't do, because it actually use the sees the page from the user perspective. So the flakiness may be from the browser perspective, or if some issue some event is not getting triggered, that may be the browser driver issue. I cannot directly see the flakiness from the Selenium. So again, if you go with the Playwright or other tools, they actually simulate actions differently from the browser console. For example, if you see Selenium WebDriver, it only operates on elements that are visible in the UI. But if you go with the Cypress or Playwright or the CDP tools, you can also click a button which is not visible on the page. So their implementation is a bit different. Coming to the WebDriver BiDi, I can say it only provides access for the dev tools for you. And if there is any element interactions you are doing, it the flakiness will be completely removed, and it will be your test will be more reliable there.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, I just have one more question. So after making it bidirectional, in one of the slides, it was shown that polling, the availability, and those things became better, right? So how exactly we are achieving that here?
Can you come again? Sorry.
No, the polling, that visibility and everything. Okay, Selenium has that delay, right? So typically it has to wait for the element,
Yes,
then
yes.
it will interact with it.
Yes.
So how this BiDi solves that problem?
So with BiDi, actually, whenever you send any request, it actually gives the information, the event triggered at the browser side. So with that event response, you can actually say what happened at the browser side is still visible or not. So there is no need to send multiple commands to the using BiDi. So BiDi actually listens to your commands, because it is a WebSocket connection. It always up and running, and it will be continuously listening to your responses from the browser side. If something happens at the browser side, what happens? WebDriver BiDi notifies the user automatically. In Selenium, you have to poll multiple times in order to get the information.
Okay, so this is something that it knows as soon as it connects with it, something like that.
Ignores in the sense, I'm not sure.
No, how it understands the element. So due to the WebSocket now.
Yeah, so whenever an event is triggered, automatically WebDriver BiDi will have the response. It will give the response back to your client, server client.
Okay.
It is the internal implementation from the WebDriver BiDi, I cannot say, but the way it is designed is whenever any event gets triggered at the browser side, it gives the response to you because of its bidirectional.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
So there is one question from Hyderabad.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to understand what is the integration compatibility of WebDriver BiDi with other test automation platforms like Copiton? And a follow-up to that question is there any way we can extend the capabilities of this when we have to test simulations of mobile and iPad on a browser?
Yep. So to answer for your first question, yes, because it is a W3C standard and only 2 tools are implementing it, Selenium and WebDriver IO. In the future, once it is made as a standard and open to the public, the other tools also can implement the WebDriver BiDi. And coming to your second question.
Yeah, my second question was, is there any way we can extend the capabilities of this WebDriver BiDi so that when we have to test simulations of mobile and iPad on a browser, we can use it for that?
Yes, it also allows you to do that. Mocking the browser window or mocking the geolocation, opening as a mobile window, it allows you to do that. Yes.
Okay, yeah, that answers. Thank you.
I'm audible? Yeah. By default, BiDi comes with the WebSocket. It initiates a WebSocket service also, right?
Yes.
Inside. Okay. So apart from this, can we enable or can we have the multi-threading parallel processing to speed up the testing process?
You mean parallelization with the WebDriver BiDi?
Yeah.
Yeah, Selenium 4 already the latest version supports WebDriver BiDi parallelization. Selenium Grid already supports that.
It supports.
Yes.
What if my application or the code is already running or it initiates the multi-threading or the multiple processes in the background. So if I enable here also, will there be any conflict or issue with the multi-threading?
Currently, I don't see there will be a conflict because the way WebDriver BiDi communicates is asynchronous, but it is properly handled in the Selenium. So for each browser session, there will be a WebSocket session. It is different. It's parallelization.
Yeah.
So each request is unique and independent from session to session. There will be no conflict for now.
So it manages, it handles,
yes.
Even though the application itself is also running remotely with the parallel threading.
Yes.
So this also can do.
Yeah.
Okay, no issues.
So quickly, I'll go with the example if possible. The demo part.
Yes.
Yep. So this is the code with the Selenium, how WebDriver BiDi works. So in here, if you see in the line number 17, we are actually setting a capability called WebSocket URL. So when you make it true, then in the backend, a WebSocket connection opens and you can start sending your BiDi commands. So the same example which I have shown in the slide. So going with the URL, what I'm doing is I'm just clicking on the console log. So what it does, it actually prints a message called hello world in the DevTools console. Sorry, I'm not showing you that.
There's some question from Gurgaon.
Yeah, let's wait for the demo to be done.
Yeah. So whenever I click on the click me for console logs, you will see a hello BiDi message that will be printed in the DevTools console. So using Selenium now, I'm just trying to fetch this message. So I'll just directly execute the code. So the test is done and you can see there will be a message called hello world printed in the console. So it is fetched.
Zoom the code a little bit, say Harsha. Sorry to interrupt.
I think so. I can do it now.
Maybe just maximize the code.
Okay.
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, so what I'll do now is I'll just enable the sleep in here, thread.sleep, and I'll show you the difference between how WebDriver BiDi works in the Firefox and in the Chrome browser. Actually, in the Chrome browser, a BiDi mapper opens along with your execution window. So that mapper will give the complete information about the BiDi messages you have, sent from your automation script. So this is only available in the Chrome for now. They are they are enabling it for the users to see what messages they have, what BiDi requests they have sent in here. So when you open WebSocket URL to true, a BiDi mapper opens and you can see what are the BiDi commands you have sent from the script. Okay, so this is only for the information purpose, and maybe in the future, Chromium team will remove this BiDi mapper visibility, and only this you will see this when you enable the WebSocket URL. Okay. Yeah. So the another example, it's the same with the WebDriver IO. Sorry, just give it the top. I have a lot of windows in here. Yeah, so the same example with the WebDriver IO. Here, what I'm doing is I'm going with the same URL. Here, I'm actually triggering on the JS exception and capturing the JS exception in here. So when I run it, but WebDriver IO actually prints log in the different ways. So whatever WebDriver BiDi sends the response in the WebDriver IO is directly printing that response in here. So if you see, this is the complete console log, WebDriver BiDi response that is sent from the Chromium driver to the WebDriver IO. Okay, in this you can see the level, error, and the message and everything. So yep, so this is the WebDriver BiDi for you. A new cross-browser automation protocol and a bidirectional automation protocol. So yep, so these are the references. You can go with the W3C WebDriver BiDi as it is a specification. WebDriver BiDi documentation is already available. The supported commands or the methods you can implement. And if you want to understand the DevTools protocol, the CDP implementation completely, the second URL, And we have already provided few examples with the Selenium. You can go with the Selenium documentation and get those examples on the WebDriver BiDi. And yep, if you want to go with the WebDriver BiDi documentation in the WebDriver IO, WebDriver IO has a large, a huge documentation on the implementation too. Okay, closing on the keynote now. Any questions?
Yeah, do we see any limitations or drawbacks of WebDriver BiDi? How we can overcome these challenges?
Got it. So WebDriver BiDi is actually designed to overcome the limitations of Classic and the CDP. So there is one limitation I can say, as you asked, it is still in progress, the implementation.
Okay.
Excuse me.
There's one more question.
So Harsha, like if we use the latest Selenium version, we are able to fetch the logs.
Yes, this is with the latest Selenium only, that 4.11.
Without setting this capability also.
Without setting, no, we have to set this capability to true, like WebSocket URL to true. So once you do this from the Selenium 4.7, it is available. You can enable this command and capability and listen to BiDi connections.
So that is understood. Okay, we are able to fetch the network logs and other logs. But if I talk about the element interaction at the UI front.
So those things are not yet implemented. Only few things are implemented from the BiDi perspective. So we are looking into the BiDi documentation and implementing every method slowly.
In short, it is more concentrated to the logs as of now.
Yeah, yes. Logs, browsing context, I can say JS errors and page execution of scripts in the browser page.
So execution speed will be impacted by this?
No, it is more faster. Again, it is bidirectional. So how Selenium communicates is different. How WebDriver BiDi communicates is different. So WebDriver BiDi directly communicates with the browser driver. So there is more fast communication in here.
So in short, there is a scenario like where we are expecting an element to be visible on the DOM, correct? If I talk about classic one, there we are using explicit wait, like wait not until that. So you are saying if we are using BiDi, we need not to use that wait.
Yes.
Okay. We have few questions from Bangalore.
It's a request from everyone. Let Sri Harsha finish the demo and his talk. Then Sri Harsha will open the floor for Q&A. We can take the Q&A at the end.
That would be good. Yeah, continue, Sri Harsha.
Yep, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, then let's have the Q&A.
We can take question from Bangalore, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to take. Hi. So any enhancement is done for the APM also?
No, only two tools for now, Selenium and WebDriver IO. If you want to do with the APM, there is a chance like you can you can make few changes in the WebDriver IO tool, and you can use BiDi with WebDriver IO APM JavaScript.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, hi, Sirius.
Another question from Bangalore? You are good? Okay, we don't have any question from Bangalore.
Yeah. So just a quick question, like when we had a call or from when we trigger Selenium test cases, then as you said, we can use the DevTools protocol and then get the network responses, right? And we can see which APIs has some error or not, or which API's response. We can also check headers and all. Can we also mock the responses as well?
Yes, of course.
Using BiDi or using
BiDi?
Okay, not using DevTools protocol, like driver.dev.
I don't see Selenium implementing DevTools. So BiDi is a DevTools protocol. Actually, it gives access to the DevTools. So DevTools protocol is completely different. That is the CDP one. BiDi is actually implementation of DevTools in the backend, kind of the same concept. You can have more access to the DevTools, browser DevTools. So with BiDi, you can do that.
Using BiDi, we can mock the response.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you.
You have a question.
JS errors, we can put a condition, right?
Any more questions from any specific location before we move to the next talk?
So these JS errors not from the script. This is from the application side. So if the application is throwing
application itself
at dynamic time, the JS errors, you can capture it.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Let's park the questions now. If you have any more questions, LinkedIn profiles are presented on the screen. You can connect there. Thank you so much, Sri Harsha.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing your valuable insights with us. That was a wonderful talk.
Thank you.